Splatfest in the Splatoon series have always been a bit of a hot-button issue. It's not hard to find someone criticizing them for matchmaking problems, the inability to play ranked, and disappointing themes, even back in the days of the Wii U original. And unfortunately, the critiques only became more numerous with the introduction of a third team in Splatoon 3. For today, I'm going to be focusing on what is probably the most controversial, and dare I say misunderstood, part of Splatfest in Splatoon 3. Tricolor Turf War. Hello everyone, my name is V-Man, and in this video I'm going to go over all of the problems people have with Tricolor Turf War and why I think these new battles are not only a great addition to the game, but perhaps even better than any of their alternatives. So before I get into what makes people dislike Tricolor Turf War, I need to explain how the mode works. Tricolor Turf War, often referred to simply as Tricolor, is a mode where 4 members of one team in the Splatfest are defending the center of a turf war stage, while 2 members of each of the other 2 teams start on either end of the stage to attack the middle. These attackers are attempting to reach the center of the stage to grab what is called the Ultra Signal, an object that can grant the team that collects it a sprinkler of doom, helping cover the stage in their color of ink, and giving them a massive advantage in the match. If either attacking team covers the most turf, both attacking teams win. If not, the defending team wins. So what's the issue with Tricolor Turf War? Adding a third team as well as a central objective makes it sound like a cool spin on standard turf wars, so why are people upset about it? Well, for starters, Splatoon 3 didn't only add Tricolor, but also removed one very beloved aspect of Splatfest from Splatoon 2, being the Shifty Stations. Shifty Stations were custom turf war stages made by Marina with mechanics usually only seen in the game's single-player mode, or even completely unique to the stage. These were often the most interesting parts of the events for people since they added something fresh to the experience of each Splatfest, and I really enjoyed them too. Heck, I made it a tradition to recon almost every Shifty Station just to look around and enjoy the special ambience they provided. However, while I can understand why people missed them, I think I had my fill of Shifty Stations in Splatoon 2. While they were creative takes on turf war stages, they ultimately did little to change turf war at a fundamental level, save for a few exceptions like the bunker games and Bridge to Tend to Switchia. Besides, I prefer that after 3 years of Shifty Stations that the developers try something else to make Splatfest interesting. Which brings me nicely back to Tricolor. Tricolor serves as that attempt at making a more unique Splatfest exclusive by adding an entirely new game mode, which could easily be a huge upgrade from what are effectively just gimmicky turf war stages. Of course, that's only the case if the mode is compelling and fun, and out the gate it showed a lot of promise. The asymmetric nature of the players being split between attackers and defenders makes Tricolor unlike any other PvP mode in the game. The introduction of the Ultra Signal makes the mode more strategic, causing it to feel almost like a ranked mode, and having 3 ink colors on the stage at once is just plain cool. Unfortunately, Tricolor isn't exactly what a lot of people had in mind when they thought of 3-team turf war matches. Instead, these people share a sentiment that I've heard surprisingly often, which is the desire for Tricolor to have been a more standard type of turf war, but with a 3 vs 3 vs 3 format instead of the usual 4v4. Personally though, I don't think this would have been a good idea. For one, entirely new stages would need to be built around this concept, unlike how Tricolor was able to simply modify existing stages to work around the mode, a point I'll touch on more in a bit. More importantly though, I don't think this would have been a very compelling take on turf war. Standard turf war is already pretty vocally disliked given the lack of player interaction, the prevalence of spawn camping, and the idea that only the last 30 seconds of the match matter. All of these problems would still be present in 3v3v3, but it would also add new issues, such as the potential for 2 of the teams working together to attack the third, effectively making it a 3v6, which would be incredibly frustrating. Meanwhile, all of these issues are alleviated in the actual Tricolor Turf War. The Ultra Signal encourages player interaction, leading to much more action and excitement for the players. The Ultra Signal also allows more of the match to matter since grabbing one gives the attacking team that claimed it the Sprinkler of Doom, providing a permanent boost in both ink coverage and special charge that only helps more the earlier it's grabbed. Tricolor also prevents uneven fights since the 2 attacking teams are separated in the middle by the defenders, causing the mode to almost always be more evenly split like a 4v4. Tricolor even helps mitigate spawn camping somewhat since any unclaimed Ultra Signals must be guarded by the defenders, which discourages them from spawn camping since that puts them further away from the objective. All of that is to say that the unique features of Tricolor Turf War already make it much more fun, compelling, and interesting than standard 3v3v3 could ever hope to be. Another complaint I hear sometimes, which I mentioned briefly with the last point, is that Tricolor simply changes the existing stages which we have for standard battles instead of creating new ones. Some will be quick to point at the Tricolor layout for Scorch Gorge and how different it is from any other stage and say that they wished all of Tricolor was like that. Don't get me wrong, I think it would be cool if the mode had more of its own stages, but I believe Tricolor utilizes the existing ones pretty well since they're already designed around players fighting for control of the center of the stage. Plus, a handful of the stages do go above and beyond for Tricolor, such as Eeltail Alley adding in Gushers, along with the unique layout I mentioned for Scorch Gorge. But even the stages with more subtle changes are usually still fun for the mode, so I think they get a pass. Or at least as much of a pass as Splatoon 3 stages can normally get. But I think the main issues people have with Tricolor Turf War come down to the mechanics of the mode not being very well understood. Most of this confusion ties back into the Ultra Signal I brought up earlier. I mentioned that an attacking player capturing the Ultra Signal helps to win the match since it summons the Sprinkler of Doom, which automatically inks turf for the team that claimed it. The attackers have to work for it though, since touching the Ultra Signal makes them vulnerable while it's being claimed, allowing anyone on a different team to splat them, including the other attacking team. This leads to a lot of frustration for attackers since a lot of the time members of the other attacking team will stop them from taking it. On the surface, this seems counterproductive since either attacking team winning will result in both of the attacking teams winning the match, so why go out of your way to hinder your fellow attackers? Well, something that many people don't realize is that the Ultra Signal is also the source of some bonus clout that the attackers can win. Clout, as you're probably aware, is the measure for how well your team is doing in the Splatfest. The more clout you get, the better off your team is. If an attacker successfully claims an Ultra Signal, their team receives a whopping 2,500 bonus clout, and if they never claim that Ultra Signal, each failed attempt is still worth 300 clout. This means that, with there being 2 Ultra Signals up for grabs, as much as 5,000 extra clout is on the line for either of the attacking teams, which is about as much as each team would get for winning the match without claiming either signal, making it an important source of clout for the Splatfest. But one other important thing about this bonus Ultra Signal clout is that it only applies to the attacking team that reaches it. That means that, if your attacking team doesn't get an Ultra Signal because the other attacking team got both of them first, then your team could be as much as 5,000 clout behind the other attacking team, meaning you're likely to win the match as one of the attackers, but putting yourself behind in the overall Splatfest. This, finally, brings me to the main point I want to make about Tricolor. It's common to hear people claim that Tricolor Turf War is poorly designed because the 2 attacking teams can hurt each other even though they're supposed to work together. Here are just a few examples of this that I've heard.
The match is advertised as 4-1-2-1-2, but in reality, the 2 attacking teams are working together to win. I've lost so many Tricolor battles just because of the fact that people constantly want to commit friendly fire.
To be successful on attack, you have to hope that your one teammate and the other attackers understand concepts like letting the other team grab the Ultra Signal, because if they win, you do.
The problem is the fact that it's 2 teams that can attack each other that are supposed to be on the same team. It's very natural to assume that you should shoot the other team, even though you're supposed to be working with them.
This take is a gross misunderstanding of Tricolor Turf War, because, and I cannot stress this enough, the attacking teams are not on the same side. At best, the 2 share an uneasy alliance because they have a common, more threatening enemy. At worst, one attacking team can effectively steal thousands of clout from the other by taking both Ultra Signals and ending with the most turf. With all of that extra clout on the table, are you really just going to let the other attacking team take your Ultra Signals because if one attacking team wins, they both win? Heck, even the game itself tries to convey this idea of the attackers working together only when it's mutually beneficial with some of the news dialogue. When the Tricolor stage for the Splatfest is brought up, one of the idols not in first place will say something about how both of them not in the lead should work together to win, which does make sense since they do need to focus more on the defending team than each other. However, usually the other losing idol will agree to team up, but only as long as it benefits them. For example, if Shiver is in the lead at halftime, Fry tells Big Man that if they work together, they, quote, can knock first place down a peg, to which he responds he's with her until it's no longer in his team's interest. This is clear proof that the intention of being an attacker in Tricolor Turf War is to throw the other attacking team under the bus if it means you get more clout. Of course, that doesn't mean that the attackers should just relentlessly go after each other, or the defenders will be much more likely to win, as many Tricolor players are likely to point out. This means that it's important to choose when it's better to let the other attacking team do their thing, and when they're worth more splatted than alive. This causes attacking in Tricolor Turf War to act as a sort of prisoner's dilemma. For those unfamiliar with it, the prisoner's dilemma is a game theory where two prisoners each choose whether they want to testify against the other, or to stay silent. If one person chooses to betray the other instead of keeping quiet, it causes the betrayer to be put in a more advantageous position at the expense of the other person being hurt significantly. But if both sides testify against each other, it puts them in a worse spot than if they had both just stayed silent. Simply put, betraying improves a player's personal benefit, while staying silent improves the collective benefit. This idea can apply to Tricolor Turf War as well. You can see here that if both attacking teams work together and never fight each other, that maximizes their collective chance of winning. But the chance of either one attacking team coming out ahead is not as high as it could be. Alternatively, if one attacking team fights and the other team chooses to cooperate, the attacking team that fights maximizes their chance of winning the most clout from both the Ultra Signal and the match as a whole. The downside to this is that it hurts the other attacking team so much that it gives the defending team a slightly better chance of winning. This is compounded even further if both attacking teams decide not to work together, bringing their collective chance of winning to its lowest and giving the defending team an edge. That is the beauty of Tricolor Turf War. It gives the attackers something to think about that no other mode can provide. Do you want to risk it all in an attempt to get all the clout you can, or do you want to play it safe and ensure more than the bare minimum? It forces you, the player, to make that choice and decide how much you're willing to risk to gain the upper hand in the Splatfest. The one-of-a-kind dilemma it gives players, the exciting central objective, the asymmetric gameplay, and all of the other positives I've brought up are why I believe that Tricolor Turf War is one of the best aspects of Splatfest in all of the Splatoon series. But before I go, there is one more thing I want to mention that I'm sure some of you were hoping I would bring up, and that relates to the introduction of a third team as a whole. Its inclusion was all but necessary for Tricolor Turf War to work the way it does, and ties into Splatoon 3's overarching theme of threes, but it does affect the rest of Splatfest as well. Namely, a normal Turf War match will only consist of 2 of the 3 teams in a Splatfest. The biggest problem people have with adding a third team to Splatfest is that it causes mirror matches, or matches where all 8 players are from the same team, to be more common, especially when one team is more popular. This is the one criticism of Tricolor Turf War I'll concede, since one team being more or less popular can significantly increase the chance of mirror matches in this mode specifically. However, people will say that a third team also made mirror matches worse in regular Turf War, and this is a complaint that I don't understand. Mirror matches in regular Turf War only become an issue when one team has significantly more than 50% of the popularity. Of course, that problem can and does happen in Splatoon 3, especially with some of the more unbalanced themes, but it was definitely worse in prior titles since having only 2 Splatfest teams effectively guaranteed that one team would have at least 55% of the popularity, causing them to get mirror matches fairly frequently. Meanwhile, more than half of Splatoon 3's Splatfests had all teams with less popularity than that, with quite a few having all teams receive less than 45% popularity, effectively guaranteeing mirror matches in regular Turf War never happen. As long as there are actually good themes chosen for Splatfests, mirror matches are only less of a problem for regular Turf War when there are 3 teams. And with that, my defense of Tricolor Turf War is complete. What did you think of my arguments? Did I convince you, or are you still critical of the mode? Let me know in the comments. I've been a big fan of Tricolor Turf War since I was able to try it all the way back in the Splatfest world premiere, and it's only gotten better with stage reworks and matchmaking changes that have happened since launch. And with Splatfest approaching an end in Splatoon 3, I'm hopeful this isn't the end of the mode. I always have so much fun with it, and I think it would be a shame if it was replaced after only one game. If nothing else though, I hope Tricolor is at least put into private battles before Splatoon 3 stops receiving regular updates. I've wanted to make this video for a while, and while I think I covered all of the most important parts, I know there are some talking points I didn't really bring up, so if there's anything about Tricolor that you think should be discussed more in depth, let me know, and if there's enough interest I might make a follow-up. In either case, I hope I've given you a new appreciation for Tricolor Turf War, and I hope you enjoyed the video. With all that said, my name is V-Man, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.